Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint. I have with me Ms. Jennifer Zeng from Inconvenient Truths. And the only country that can give you inconvenient truths is China. So let's understand from her that what is China up to, because there is sure lot behind the scenes which is happening in China. So namaskar Jennifer, thank you so much for coming into the show, and I hope to learn from you what we don't get to see about China in the open media.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So I wanted to ask you to begin with. You've done a show, somewhere after the 7th of October attack. You actually mentioned the Chinese support to Hamas. You mentioned about the Chinese support being given to all the anti Israel groups. You mentioned Chinese support which was being given to Iran. You've also mentioned something about a secret strategy that the Chinese have to get the US stuck. Would you tell us about that to begin with?
Yes, I think overall, actually, it's in China, it's an open secret. They've been talking about it for a long time, which means they need to create at least three battlefields for the US to keep US busy. So when the CCP wants to attack Taiwan or take over Taiwan, the US has no you can say ability to take care of that. So the three battlefield, of course, one is or has already been going on, like the war between Russia and the Ukraine, and of course the second one is a war in the Middle East. That's why the CCP supports Hamas to attack Israel, and actually the CCP is behind Iran as well, and Iran is the you can say the big boss of every evil regime in Middle East. So if the war in Middle East expands and become more uncontrollable, that will also get the US busy. Another front is, of course, in the Asian area. If the CCP can create something like um, inside North Korea to attack either South Korea or Japan, or the CCP can itself initiate something in the South China Sea area. So that is also another battlefield. So it has been going on for a long time. A lot of CCP strategists and you can say intellectuals talk about it, and a while ago, they also talk about create an enemy in America's backyard in South Africa. South American, the South American country, maybe, but that plan maybe didn't work out very well. So overall, I think there was a very famous Xi Jinping said to Putin when he visited Russia a while ago while he was departing. He said something. Well, what we are seeing in this world is some great changes that we've never seen in a century. So let's work together to push forward the great changes. So that's the big picture of in the CCP's mind. It wants to reshape the world order and to demolish the U.S. The U.S. dominancy, and it wants to replace the U.S. or at least share of some of the hegemony that the U.S. is having now, and it wants to have a say or just completely replace US if it can. So with that big picture in mind, I think it will give us a better idea to understand what's happening in the world in the past several years.
I mean, this is very interesting that they are actually planning these events and going forward. The current attack, the current escalation has also been very interesting because the Iranians have used basically a lot of these drones and a lot of missiles and stuff, and we know for a fact that a lot of the technology was transferred from China. So somewhere down the line, the Chinese again get stuck in the not stuck, but I'm sure purposefully are there in part of this attack as well. And I also believe that they were using Chinese navigation systems. So it's these are rumors right now as far as the navigation is concerned, but it's quite significant.
Um, I think a while ago, in February this year, I did a program about actually a piece of top secret information revealed by a Chinese language channel called Lude Media. And they obtained a internal document about the CCP. They are talking about a project 1016. So that project was actually help Middle East country to build tanks inside their country. And they also show several pictures of Chinese personnel in that country building tanks, and they have, personnel of the local country, as well as a huge, I think, big group uh, photo of all those personnel involved to build that project. It says it's a huge, challenging project. So that country, I believe, it's Iran, because when Lude Media was doing live streaming, although he didn't mention the name of the country, but a audience member put a comment saying, "I guess this country is Iran." And
There's
Luda
nobody
said,
else.
"You got it. Yeah, you got it right." So he implied that it is Iran. So I think it's already open secret. The CCP is behind Iran. It's offering technology, and like this project 1016 said, they even sent the whole group of personnel to help Iran to build tanks inside the country. So technology, material, or maybe funds to fund Iran. Otherwise, they couldn't have this technology. Yeah, in terms of the navigation system, we all know that the CCP has built its own navigation system called Beidou, as a counter, you can say, system to GPS, because it knows whenever it has been preparing for a war against, or ultimate war against US. So they have to have their own navigation system, because if a war really breaks down, if they are relying on the US navigation system, the first thing is all their missiles will lose the ability, to navigate. So of course, I think they have built, I think, invested a lot about money to build this Beidou navigation system, and they of course boasted how effective, how powerful it is. So there could be some questions of really it is as good as your GPS system, but maybe it still has quite amount of ability to do navigations, to offer military support for countries like Iran, Russia, and whichever regime wants to side with the CCP.
Russia has its own system. It's called GLOPS, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. There's a viewer called Aswati ji. He's written a very interesting comment. He says Beidou instead of Beidou. So that's what a lot of. As a matter of fact, I've spoken to some sailors who've actually said that it's not a very reliable system. I've spoken to sailors who've sailed into Beijing and Shanghai, you know,
Mhm.
while doing this thing. They've said it's not a very reliable system, and as a matter of fact, it's got a lot of um, glosnas. That's the Russian system. So, you know, I want to come to a point where is Xi Jinping right now in terms of his mindset? Because I'm sure he knows the decline of China has started. Uh, if his people are telling him the correct things, uh, how do you see he looks at that? Because that must tell him his time is less.
Yes, I think actually recently a former professor of Peking University, he had some inside information from the CCP system. They, according to him, they said that actually Xi Jinping talked about this issue recently. So according to Xi Jinping, yes, we are suffering some kind of economic setbacks, but compared with the period, with the so-called 3 year of disaster, that is actually during the Chinese Great Famine, where millions of at least 30 to 40 million people starved to death in China during that period. So Xi Jinping's standard is, compared to that period of time, we are way much better off. Yes, we do have some difficulties, but compared to those, we are way better off. If we could overcome such huge difficulty as we experienced during that period of time. So what we are encountering now is minor or nothing, or not to be worried about. So this is point one. Point two is there was a Chinese economist raising a very interesting point, which I think has quite some value in it. So according to him, industrial civilization has never been able to coexist with any, you can say, totalitarian system. So in totalitarian system, by nature is an enemy or cannot coexist with industrial civilization. So if China allows its economy to continue to grow, it has to somehow enter industrial civilization. And then either the industrial civilization needs to go or the CCP needs to go. So, and of course, the CCP will choose to have industrial civilization go and to keep its own power. So if you look at Xi Jinping's economic policy in the past 10 years, he made three major policy examples. He said, in terms of strategic statistic point, if you make one mistake, there is a 50% of chance you make the mistake. But if you make 8 mistakes continuously only because you don't know the right answer, the chance is near to zero. So the fact that the CCP made when it comes to economic choices, every time on those 8 major issues, it choose exactly the wrong answer. So that actually, according to him, proves the CCP know the right answer. Otherwise, if they just don't know, they choose anything, there is a 50% of chance they will do the right thing. But every time they do the wrong thing, it proves they do the wrong thing purposely. So that's another very valid point. I think maybe nobody ever thinks about. And another very important piece of information I think everybody needs to know is, we all think if the CCP's economy goes down, it has no power or no money to sustain a huge war against Taiwan or anything. But the fact is, during all these years, according to the CCP's own number, about 5 million CCP corrupted officials has been purged. And if you can read the report, sometimes one CCP official based, I think, 100, how many? A trillion RMB dollars.
Yeah, that guy was there
So
who stole in billions, actually. Yes, correct.
yes, in billions. In very rare cases, it's a trillion RMB. So 5 million of them, if on average, actually this is also from the CCP's internal channel. On average, every one of them invested 50 million yuan. Excuse me.
No problem. Please take your time. Please take your time. Don't worry.
Yeah, so we can do the math. So if there's 5 million plus 50 million one, so it's more than 2 trillion, like
A lot of money.
like of money that Xi Jinping has already put aside for this war. And another huge thing is China has been maintaining trade surplus all these years. But if this is also found by a Chinese economist, so it means it has a huge amount of US dollars gaining from the trade surplus. But if you check the financial system, you can't find where that huge US dollar trade plus was go. If you look at their balance sheet, it should be either on the commercial banks balance sheet or on the business balance sheet, but you can't find that huge amount that is somewhere between 2 to 3 trillion US dollar amount of trade surplus. You can't find it anywhere inside the Chinese financial system or bank sheet of anywhere. So there's another a rumor, or you can say theory, saying that the CCP has also put aside that huge amount of money as a war fund, and there was even rumor that Xi Jinping's brother is personally in charge of that fund. So no matter how the economy suffer and ordinary Chinese people suffer, the CCP has put aside too huge amount of money to sustain this war. So that's the economic issue that the outside world may have ignored. So in terms of Xi Jinping's mindset, I think he is very determined to take Taiwan either peacefully or by any kind of force he could. And for him, the time is pressing. Yes, he understand if he wait for too long, the international situation is changing every minute. He could lose the time window. And also, of course, he's also watching how the situation in China is go. I think the
Yeah.
worse the situation is, the more maybe he wanted to start a war sooner.
What I want to ask you is, in a realistic term, if this the Iran situation becomes bad, China gets a lot of its oil from Iran. I mean, about 4 million barrels a day comes from Iran. I mean, China
Mhm.
stands to lose pretty big as far as the Iranian oil is concerned. And as a matter of fact, the entire Chinese, you know, uh, uh, investment and this and that within the region just goes for a toss, because I don't know if they've actually helped out the Iranians in this kind of an attack, knowing that the Americans could react like that. That seems a little weird to me, because why would they want to sabotage their own thing? Uh,
Mhm.
but you never know. Chinese have been known to do stupider things.
Yes, I think
You
the
know.
one of the biggest mistake we could make is we try to understand Xi Jinping's mindset
Yeah,
with
CCP's mind
any
is. Mhm.
normal person. Yeah, dictators don't think like rational,
Mhm.
normal people. And for a normal government, they always need to put the interest of the nation, of the people ahead, because they are elected by the people. If they lose people's favor, they lose their election next time. But for a dictator, that's not a consideration.
That's true.
So their
That's true.
power yes, is the most important thing in terms of oil. Maybe the CCP has already, got a lot of strategic storage, and also CCP has signed a contract with Russia before, I think, the Winter Olympic in Beijing, to secure a lot of course, and actually at a very high price, uh, Russia's oil. So we don't know, and maybe there is, yes, some loss and some risks, but maybe for its greater goal, it's necessary loss. Everybody know if we start a war, we our people could also be killed. But as long as we killed more enemies, it doesn't matter. It's a necessary evil or sacrifice,
Yeah, very
especially
true.
when who is lose is not the Xi Jinping's family. He won't care.
I mean, you look at his best friend in Pakistan, right? The CCPs invested so much money there, and poor
Yeah,
Chinese people who are working there, they get blown up by these terrorists,
yes,
and CCP doesn't do anything about it. It's so
yes,
sad. I mean, if it was a democratic country by now, heads would
yeah,
have rolled. Five
yeah,
people, according to my information, is 16 people that have died, and a total of 36 Chinese people have died in Pakistan in the past year, 1 year itself.
yeah.
But
It
the
says if it
CCP just
doesn't
keeps them
care.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it never any offer any, I think, real support for overseas Chinese people anywhere. I think even during the pandemic, when some overseas Chinese people got so scared by the CCP's propaganda, they want to go back China. They thought China was safer. But the CCP didn't offer any help. On the contrary, it make them very difficult to go back to China and stuck in other countries. So the CCP
Mm.
never cares about its own
So
people.
we are also seeing protests in China, which were not being seen before. Today, I think last week there was a protest in Hebei in front of a bank. Then there was a protest in Guangzhou. Then there was a protest in Chongqing. We know that
Mhm.
these things were happening, and as a matter of fact, in one place they had to shut down the one part of the city for a little while for it to calm down. This is one, and the second thing is, I mean, I don't know. See, the I put two plus two four. I kind of connected the dots. That Beijing explosion which happened, the DF-17 rocket allegedly went and hit that neighborhood. Uh, People are asking questions. What is this happening inside China? Why are I mean, one, the protests, and two, government experiments, if I may, on the Chinese people. What's happening inside?
Um, what's happening inside China? I think, first of all, for that big explosion happening just near Beijing, I think
Hmm.
only some 30 kilometers away from
Yeah,
Beijing. Yes, the authorities claim it's a gas pipe
no ways.
explosion, but yeah, but you
No
watch the
ways.
videos, yeah, you watch the damage. So a former Chinese journalist revealed, according to his information, it's a
Yeah.
failed missile test. Of course, it could also be a missile targeting Beijing and got intercepted when it's being close to Beijing, close enough. So yeah, it for me. You look at the videos of the explosion and the damage and the situation. That
It's
like
not a.
the ground was not damaged at all. If it's a pipe, it's underground pipe explosion. The
Mhm,
ground should
mhm.
be blown up as well. So out of these two theories, they failed a missile attack or failed missile testing is a more, I think, reasonable one to me. So if it's a failed missile testing, it means the CCP is I think, very aggressively preparing to launch a missile or something. If it's a failed attack against Xi Jinping, that is even more dramatic.
Mm.
But I don't think it's totally impossible because what the Xi Jinping is doing, uh, I think everybody in China sees if he continues to goes on this way, especially if he stubbornly start a war against Taiwan or the U.S., everybody in China would suffer. Actually, a lot of military personnel, they don't think attack Taiwan is a good idea, and they don't think the CCP has a chance to win. That's why a lot of them were against Xi Jinping's idea, and that was one of the reasons why Xi Jinping did such a wide range of purge inside the CCP army,
Mhm.
because they didn't agree with his idea. So, but because everybody see the danger China is under the Xi Jinping's rule, so it's just very very normal if somebody inside the system wants to take him down or wants to,
That's
you
true.
know, yeah, there were quite a few, I think, very legit you can say report or incident where
Mm.
the CCPs inside or whatever, either police system or army system want to start an assassination against the Xi Jinping. He
Yeah.
did encounter several very dangerous situations. So that I think that is very possible if they want to
Mm.
do
Mm.
something. And you talk about the protest. Yes, if you go to this Chinese social media every day, you can see. Of course, the scale was small, and the CCP tried to suppress it. But there are all sorts of protests, like you said, against the banks, because their money was totally gone, and also there were a lot of, nowadays you can say, a lot of employees
Yeah.
protesting against their employers because they lost their job, or they haven't
Pay
been
cuts.
paid for months. And in some incidents, there are homeowners who actually paid for their houses, but they were never given their houses. The project has never been finished, so they bought the empty, it's just a virtual thing on the paper, on a piece of paper. They bought the plan, they watched the plan on the paper, and they paid the money, but the building was never finished. So there are a lot of that kind of protest, because they paid the money, but they didn't get their houses uh, back delivered to them after the contract they has now been over. So there were all sorts of protests. And another very obvious thing is the car, you can say, car terrorist attack. There are so many upset people. They are so angry about the society. So some of them choose to turn around to to become a terrorist attack. They
Yeah.
attack,
I've seen those ramming attacks, right?
schools.
People just go
Yeah,
with the car and hit people.
yeah, they just discriminately
Yeah.
attack everybody, and somebody even choose to attack children. So these
Mm.
kind of incidents are happening virtually a lot, or even every day. And sometimes one day you see three similar accidents in three different cities, like those people just driving their car like crazy, and smash into big crowds, and sometimes hurt maybe dozens, sometimes kill a dozen or something. So these kind of things are keep
Mhm.
happening in China now. So that's why in US we are so such a huge surge of illegal migrants coming from China, because a lot of them want to escape China. Of course, there could be some of them are sent over by the CCP to hide here first, and then when the time is ripe, they start
I'm sure.
some chaos. Oh
I'm sure. I'm
yes,
sure. Mhm.
inside the US. So yeah, we are in a very, I think, special stage where
Mhm.
things happening very quickly that we haven't seen maybe were happening in years in the past, but now every day so many things are happening in China as well as in the world.
it's also this thing. I'll ask you one more question, and then we'll get into the audience questions as well. There's some very
Mhm.
interesting questions people want to ask you. Uh, you know, we know that Xi Jinping has been feeling a bit of a heat from his people. And as a matter of fact, if you remember last year, during the BRIC summit, when that submarine went down in the Yellow Sea, he didn't go to Beijing directly. He flew to Urumqi, stayed there for a
Mhm.
while, and then he went by train to this thing. And a lot of people speculated, why is he going by train? I mean,
Yeah.
why can't he just fly down? And he got his entire, his Politburo over here. They did a meeting and everything, and then they went back. The rest of them flew back, but he didn't. He went by train. So a lot of
Mhm.
people are saying that somebody wants to shoot him down, or what is happening. So is there, I mean, I just remembered, I don't know, guys, I've shown you this video, all of you guys. Do you remember that incident last month where a guy just tried to take his car and rammed it into the presidential area in Beijing? Did you
Yes.
see that
Yes.
video? So
Yes.
I mean,
I did
is
say that.
how common is something like this happening?
We really don't know because of the information control. Yes, I
I mean,
remember the
before Xi
incident.
Jinping as well, sorry to interject, but before Xi Jinping as well, right from Mao's days, is this something which used to happen?
Uh, yes, sometimes, but I think overall not as frequent. I think the desperation we are seeing from the public today is way much, I think, severe than before. I think in Mao Zedong's time, the control was tight, and somehow because a lot of people still got, you can say, those kind of illusion by the Mao, and they are very. It's a very closed society, so people didn't know anything outside what is happening. So they believed our society is best. This Mao has saved us from the old evil society. Even they suffer from poverty, but they think it's because of the American imperialist or the old evil society have did a very bad thing to us. So we are now we will get better. So, but
Hmm.
now the situation is different, is because after the 40 some years of the so-called opening up to and reform, China did have experienced a period of time where people, or a part of the people, enjoying some kind of freedom or information freedom. They went to see overseas. They see how the rest of the world is doing and is living, and they gained a little bit of better living standard for a little while. So after people have experienced that, now if you want to take all those away and bring them back to Mao's time, so they were, I think, not as easy to control as before. So now, although the CCP built the Great Firewall, but I
Yeah.
think tens of millions of Chinese people jump over the wall daily to
Hmm.
try to get
Hmm. Hmm.
access to free information. So the control is getting harder. Of course, the CCP now has also using high technology to do its, to, we can say, to build up a digital totalitarian. But the battle, I think, is still going on, and I can feel the desperation, the level of people's desperation is becoming bigger because initially, if we are not happy with this leader, after 10 years he will gone. If we get a new leader, maybe things will get better. Now Xi Jinping, everybody understands Xi Jinping will be there forever. So everybody lost their hope or confidence in this system, in their society. So that kind of thing, I think the frequency is getting way much higher than before.
Wow, it's amazing. It's quite amazing that stuff like this can actually happen in a country in today's day and age, because It's really, really wild.
Yeah.
Guys, yeah, I mean, it's wild. There are countries which are strict and stuff like that, but whenever I do a show on India China, right, you'll find so many Chinese people will suddenly pop up suddenly
Yeah.
here, and they'll do all sorts of things. So I did this. Let me show you something. Um, let me show you something. I made a 1 second. I made a map of China,
Mm-hmm.
and they get really riled up when I show them this.
Mm-hmm. And what a feedback did you get?
Oh, a lot of love and appreciation, I must say.
Okay,
So I
that's
I
interesting.
literally spent a lot of time studying this map, and
Mm-hmm.
so the studying about the geography, and then I said, fair enough. Let me now try and make this. And recently, when China kind of changed the names of our cities in one of our states, I did the
Mm-hmm.
same to them. I put
Mm-hmm.
Indian names to Chinese cities.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, let me give them a taste of their own medicine, right? So I
Yeah.
changed the name of Beijing to Uttarpur. Uttar means north, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Pur is a common ending name for an Indian city.
Mm-hmm.
Wuhan, I named it Videshpur. Videshpur is Videsh means abroad. So what
Mm-hmm.
Wuhan made went abroad, the virus.
Yeah. Virus. Yeah.
Okay, I named Chongqing Charanpur. Charan is just a simple Indian name, and I
Mm-hmm.
named Macau. Instead of Macau, it became Makarpur, right?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, Hong Kong, I don't know if you're familiar with Hare Krishna movement in
Mm,
US. There is a god in India called Krishna ji. So there is a
mhm,
lot there's these devotees. They're known as Hare Krishna,
mhm,
right? So I put the name of Hong Kong as Hare Krishna Nagar. Nagar is again a common ending name to Indian cities. And Shanghai, I named it Shivaji Nagar. Nagar is the city, and Shivaji was a very strong warlord, a warrior in India. So
mhm.
I put this out, and they got really wild. Oh, who's this? Yeah, oh. And one person was actually telling me that my parents have not told me this. Is this a lie? Is this what is this? So I ended up telling them, your parents have lied to you. Go fight with them. So it was funny. But we also have some bots that have come here as well, and try and write all sorts of nonsense. So that's how it is. These Chinese, these CCP paid, bots which are there, they will never improve, right? And that's a
Mm.
sad part. They get 20 cents to type a tweet, and they earn their living like this. But fair enough. Guys, let's get into your questions. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, yes, please subscribe to Jennifer's channel as well. The Chinese CCP plays a lot of tricks with her, and keeps pushing her channel down. So please subscribe to her as well. She puts out a lot of interesting content with regards to what's happening inside China, the kind of conversation we just had. Watch that; it's very interesting, and follow her Twitter accounts as well. So that Inconvenient Truths by Jennifer Zeng is her Twitter account. So please follow that in large numbers, so that we can all kind of learn a little more about China, as much as China thinks China doesn't feel comfortable for the rest of the world to know. So like, subscribe, and you can contribute towards this channel using the QR code, PayPal, or super stickers, super chats, or become a member. Right. I think there are two members, Arun ji and Shisha ji. Thank you so much, both of you, for becoming a member. Partha, thank you so much. He says, what is ignition plan? You use this word in the beginning, ignition plan during that thing. What do what is that? And his
Yeah.
second part of the question is, uh, how do you see West China?
West China. What does that mean by West China? Okay, let's first
It's,
explain what
see, I'll tell
it
you,
is.
I'll explain something to you. In India, we are very upset with China because it keeps renaming our cities. So
Uh-huh.
we've decided, as a community, we've decided, I don't know what my government does or not, we're going to give it back to China the way it loves it. And
Mhm.
these maps were floating around on Weibo for a day and a half
Mhm.
before they were deleted. I know for
Mhm.
a fact because my friends in Taiwan came and told me, listen, your maps are floating around in Weibo.
Mhm.
So be very careful. You'll have a lot of bot attacks coming your way. Okay, fair enough. So over to you.
Okay, so the ignition plan is just in China is 点火计划, which means they set fire everywhere in the world, so to create chaos. When the world is in chaos, there's opportunities. That's what Mao believes. He has a famous saying that only after great chaos can we have great order. So it's very simple. It's in the CCP's, I think, book. You need to dismantle all the current system and order in order to take over, right? If everything runs smoothly in the country or in the world, the CCP has no chance to gain anything. But if everybody is rushing to put down all the fires they started in the world, then it's their opportunity to do something that when everybody is busy, try to put down this fire. So that's you can understand it from the surface. That's their plan. Of course, when how to carry it out, where to start a fire first, or where to start a big fire, where to start a small fire. I think they have their maybe very concrete plan and to carry out very systematically. But overall, we need to understand that the CCP's strategy to bring great chaos to the world so that they have a chance to win over their power, to expand their own power and to replace the US to gain global hegemony. I don't quite know much about West China, but I know there's a joke in China. We sometimes call China as West Korea because China is becoming more and more like North Korea. So some people joking around refer to the CCP's China as West Korea. That's a
Wow.
joke.
Okay, that's a revelation, guys. Remember that. Let's
West,
all remember
West
that.
Korea.
West Korea. Okay, fair
Yeah,
enough. I'm going to remember that. West
yeah,
Korea, West Japan. I think West Japan would hurt a little more, right?
yeah.
Yeah. West
It,
Japan would hurt quite
no,
a
it,
bit. So
it just trying to express the idea China
yeah.
is more and more like North Korea, exactly like North Korea even in some area.
Hmm. Honestly, between China and North Korea, I rather be in North Korea. Why? Because I know I am in trouble and I
Yeah.
know I live in a bad place. In
Yes.
China, I see these glittery, shiny buildings.
Yeah.
They look very nice, but I know
Yes.
I'm living in a jail.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'd rather live in a jail which looks like a jail rather than live in a gold jail, you know, made out of
Yes.
gold, but I can't do anything about it. It's like water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Uh,
Yes, I think that's why the CCP has more power or more chance to still deceive people. There are, like the other day, I share a story of someone in America who has never been to China for 40 years. He initially came from China, but he has never been back. Recently, I think some of her family died in China, so she had to return. So on the customer, he was stopped. Her phone was checked, and they found her chat record with a Chinese lady who is running for Congress in U.S. and who is very critical about China. So they say, oh, this person, her name is Lily Tang. She is our enemy. What are you chatting with her with? And then they detain her in a little room, and she got so scared. She initially planned to stay in China because she hasn't been gone back for 40 years. She initially to stay for 3 weeks, but when they released her, they said, out of the spirit of humanitarian, we will let you go so that you can maybe she needs to join the funeral of her family, but we will contact you later. So because the last sentence, we will contact you later, she got so scared. So her sister and her only stayed for 1 week and then they escaped. They feel like they are escaping, they are smuggling themselves out of China. So that's a very recent story. And when I shared this story on Twitter, and somebody comment, "Oh, you are lying. China is fine. You know, like you said, you see all these splendid high buildings, high-rise buildings. You think China is free. China is fine. China still has a lot of opportunity." But in reality, what you got is, even if you just chat with somebody who the CCP doesn't like, you could be get detained. And she already got detained and stopped at the customer. So like you said, yes, it's more
Sheesh, that's
dangerous than North Korea, because it's very deceitful, and you can got trapped without knowing it.
yeah, these glimmery, shiny cities. Shwetadri ji, thank you so much for becoming a member. Manjari ji, thank you so much for your contribution. JP, thank you so much. He says, Ms. Zeng, what is your view on Chinese role in Iran-Israel war? I think we've spoken on that right at the beginning. So we'll skip this one. Dr. MPC, thank you so much. He says, Jennifer ji, reply in kind. G is a polite way of respecting someone in India. So if I'm saying Jennifer G, is like
Ah,
a respect to an elder.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So that's how we have. If you notice, I say G after everybody's name. So that's just a
Mhm.
respect that we give to each other.
Thank you so
Jennifer
much.
ji, reply in kind. What happens if Israel won't attack Iran directly but starts attacking Iran's shipping and oil tankers? China will be sunk.
So what happens if Iran won't attack China,
Attack
but
Iran directly, but attacks Iran's shipping and oil tankers, which is where China.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, yeah, go ahead with it. I think we need to recognize this, this new evil axis, like Russia, Iran, the CCP. They want just to turn over the current order, and then they want to gain power. So if we don't recognize that, if we are not determined when we are dealing with this new evil acts, of course, I forgot North Korea, then the world got itself into bigger trouble. So I think we need to recognize the evil for what it is, and be more determined when we are dealing with it. And then, of course, whichever way is better, I hope every government, every country can work out the best way to deal with it. But the fundamental issue is we need to recognize and call their names and recognize them for what they are, and don't pretend, oh, they are one of the world, and they are just maybe have some little issues. We can maybe peacefully coexist or compete with them. No, it's not compete. It's really at war with the world.
Yeah.
It's not competition.
Manjari ji asks, thank you so much, firstly, for the membership. She says, what kind of experiments are done on Chinese people?
I think maybe they. Of course, the first is there could be some kind of biological experiment. And another huge experiment, I think, during the 3 years of lockdown, I think that is a huge social test the CCP did on all Chinese people to see if they put the Chinese people under to what kind of extent they can put up with. So imagine if CCP declare a war today, and they bring a lockdown again on the Chinese society. So they have absolutely control over the society. They can do whatever they can So there's a theory that actually the 3 year of insane lockdown is not to deal with the virus, because after they lift up the lockdowns, now it's totally going to the another opposite. They don't allow the hospitals to do tests to patients who are showing COVID symptoms anymore. No talk, and destroy all records, including people's vaccination records. So there's that lockdown has nothing to do with controlling the pandemic, but it's a huge social experiment the CCP is doing to the society to see how the public will react if they put such kind of insane control over them. And the result was, I think, very satisfactory to the CCP. Just a phone call, a roof, uh, or just an empty order. Everybody stays at home and they are so terrified, and it's so easy, relatively so easy to control over the people. If they are going to take down to a so-called Fangchang hospital, everybody follows the order. So that is the huge experiment, I think. So you can say societal experiment the CCP did to the entire nation, and so they are very confident. They have the ability to control the society. So no worries. We can do whatever we can. And we put everything under control. So
Yeah,
yeah, everybody
Dr.
watched that for 3 years, right? And the world couldn't do anything. Nobody
I
in
mean,
China could do anything either.
heart-wrenching videos I saw of people banging their plates and stuff like that,
Yeah,
asking for food.
yeah.
Buildings, entire buildings screaming for food was something. I mean, fair enough, we have an issue with China, but that's just a little not settling for me as a
Yeah,
human being.
no.
Dr. MPC, once again, thank you so much. Says China brought London Metal Exchange and is accumulating base and precious metals in warehouses. War preparations, hedging bets, or new BRICS currency?
China brought London Metal Exchange and is accumulated base.
Precious metals in warehouses.
Yes. I think China has been doing that for quite a while now. Maybe they are more better prepared than the rest of us, and it's also, I think, buying a lot of gold. So, and like we talked before, everything works toward their final ultimate war against US, against the world, to gain hegemony in the world. So yes, I think everywhere if the CCP goes, it create disorder or chaos, or it did a lot of damage to the current order because it didn't go by order. If like everybody was lining up so for something, if a CCP guy goes, he didn't care about how long you have waited. He just cut through the line, jump right in front of everybody. So that's the way they act. So it doesn't. We shouldn't be surprised about those sort
Yeah.
of actions.
SN says there are reports that Xi Jinping is promoting his wife in CCP politics and as his political successor. If true, then is just China's Lalu Prasad Yadav. Lalu Prasad Yadav was a Indian politician who tried doing that, succeeded doing that.
Yes, because recently there were several, I think, reports that draw people's attention, like the official media reported about Peng Liyuan's activities in a very high-profile manner, and in theory, Peng Liyuan has no official title. She's not has any government role in the government, but when she went to inspect some kind of organization or institute, even the deputy governor of that province, accompanying her as, treat her like a state level leader. So when you read that report, she was definitely portrayed and treated like a national leader. Of course, there were also reports about her solo or separate activities like diplomatic activities, receiving, visiting politicians or the wives of the politicians alone, and she got her separate reports. So all these things didn't happen to the CCP leaders before
Yeah.
Xi Jinping. Of course, during Mao's time, Mao's wife was given political power in the especially later period of during the Cultural Revolution. I think there were quite a lot of talks about she will have her wife enter the Politburo of the CCP. Of course, there were still, you can say, barriers because she's not a member of Central Committee. So how could you promote her directly into the Politburo? So that could be some, you can say, procedure issues. But in general, I think there were some merit in this kind of rumor, because Xi Jinping's biggest issue now is he can't trust anybody. So he is now actually only, even like Li Shangfu, the former defense minister, like Qin Gang, the former foreign minister, who were personally promoted by him, then also got some issues or problems. It's either corruption, or it's either actually working against him, or he called them two-faced person. So on the surface, they are loyal to Xi Jinping, but when they turn around, they work against him. So they were called two-faced or double-faced person. So Xi Jinping suddenly found he was surrounded by all these double-faced officials. So he could hardly find anybody to trust. Even his own premier, like Li Qiang, was deprived of many of his functions, or you can say, or working abilities. He was, he was a nobody in
Yeah, he's
Chinese
supposed to
politics
be.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he's supposed
was
to be head of the
absent.
state council. Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason, or there is a very huge, you can say, need for Xi Jinping to promote his wife, because maybe his wife is most trustworthy people. If he can't get any other officials he can trust well enough, maybe to promote Xi Jinping, his wife is an inevitable choice for him. And also he always wants to learn from Mao about everything. So if Mao promotes his own wife, why can't him? So there could be this kind of possibility
Oh
because
gosh.
need.
Right. Last few questions, so we'll just kind of wrap up. Dr. MPC once again says, Jennifer ji, Chinese public happy with the CCP? What do they think of the Tibetan occupation?
I don't think the Chinese people, the public, is happy with the CCP. But the problem is a lot of them feel so helpless. They were controlled. We talk about the 3-year lockdown. The entire system was in such a tightly controlled status. So that's why they drive their cars, ram against the innocent people, because they feel very helpless. I don't think they are definitely very unhappy about the CCP. Even the CCP officials are very unhappy about the CCP. Even only they haven't found effective way to fight back, and there are a lot of people even dare not to think about the possibility that they can fight back. They are under such a vulnerable position because of the tight control. So that's my answer to the first question. What's the other question? Oh, how the people think about the Tibetan
Tibet.
occupation. I think for the majority of the Chinese population, they were brainwashed into believing that China has a right, and to have a big country and territory is a great thing. It shows how great of Chinese nation is, and they virtually knew nothing about what the CCP has done to the Tibetan people. So so sadly, most of the Chinese people would believe Tibetan is part of China, and if you want to break away from China, that's a great thing. So that's why they are very against any kind of independence. When you talk about Taiwan independence, like Tibetan independence, that's a big thing for a lot of Chinese people. So, of course, there are some people who don't think this way, but unfortunately, the majority of the Chinese people are very much brainwashed, and the nationality has become virtually the last weapon or tool the CCP can use to brainwash and manipulate Chinese people's, their patriotic sense, and that sense is, I have to say, very strong.
Akshay says, firstly, thank you. He says, slightly off topic, but what do Chinese students prefer to specialize in after this kind of economic stagnancy?
What the Chinese students prefer.
Chinese students like to study and specialize in after this kind of economic slowdown.
I think for the Chinese people, most of them are now preferring to public servant positions,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of companies, even initially very profitable ones, are very like a lot of them have gone bankrupt, and the job are not as secure. So maybe the public servant, or the official position, whatever, is the most secure job for a lot of young people. So if
Mm.
they can have that kind of, I heard that any public servant position is very much sought after. Sometimes one position you got thousands of people applying for that. In terms of, I think initially when like Alibaba and Tencent, that sort of in internet companies were very profitable and expanding, a lot of people want to do, IT work, or banking work in the financial system, or investment banking. They are very high paying jobs when the economy is good. But right now, I think uh, everybody is saying those good positions are turning into nothing, and the last maybe or relatively safe sector is the public positions or government jobs.
Mm. Insane. One, please, oh please God, wake me. Thank you so much. Says, is CCP betting on a weakening dollar, forcing US to spend a spread paper thing across conflicts? If China hedges its dollar well, US has a lot more to lose from the emerging chaos. I think she spoke about spreading the US thin in 2 3 conflicts. The dollar is it's quite debatable. Even the CCP seems to be running behind the dollar, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it no dollar. Yes, also there's up and downs, but it's still
yeah.
now everybody
It's
recognize its value,
yeah,
and everybody's use it to do their trade.
yeah. JBJP says, thank you so much. Says, are there a lot of Chinese people like you talking on the CCP?
Quite a few. I think there are more and more, and especially a lot of Chinese speaking YouTubers are doing the same thing. But maybe not as many are doing the programs in English. But more and
I
more people are
so
talking, I think, are speaking out.
this comment apart, he wants you to look at the photograph that he's made. That's an AI
Mhm.
generated image of Xi Jinping.
Mhm. Yeah, that's is quite funny. Yes.
Okay, Cyberpunk says thank you so much, firstly, and he says like the video. Aborigine, thank you so much, says Taiwan's ambitions are not very different from CCP when it comes to Tibet and Arunachal. I am not a racist. I don't hate the Chinese people. I just don't want China as my neighbor anymore because of not because of COVID, but because of the Galwan story. Galwan was when Indian and Chinese troops fought, and we lost 20 of our soldiers. The Chinese lost more than 100, which they claim only five.
Mhm.
But yeah, a lot of Indian people are very upset about something like that because uh, we respect our army quite a bit. The army is a voluntary army, it comes out of us. I mean, my
Yes.
father served 37 years in the armed forces.
Uh,
We respect our armed forces, and I mean, we
yeah.
dislike what the CCP did.
Yes, I understand. The CCP's aggressive way is, upsetting so many people in the world.
Yeah. And a personal question to you says, are you still threatened by the CCP covertly or overtly?
Yes, of course. I like my family in China are always being watched, and even my sisters, are monitored and watched, and they didn't get any promotion they should have gotten. And my mother occasionally got a talk from the CCP National State, department. And when my father was dying in 2014, they didn't allow me to go back, and they also used that opportunity to want to convince my mother to persuade me into working for the CCP. If I agree, I can go back visit my father. So, of course, cyber attack and the threat like 5 cents armies, flood my channel and that sort of thing. It's a common story for me. I'm no longer bothered by those, but yes, of course they don't like
Um,
me.
Your family still lives in China. You
Yeah, my mother, my two sisters. Yeah,
no plans of coming out?
it's very hard. We can only say that.
Wow. Puts you to a thought, guys. Think about it. We curse a lot of freedoms in our country, and then you kind of realize what people go through.
Yes.
That's not a very easy thing to go through. I'm sorry to hear that, and thank you so much. May God be with you, and you get the strength to deal with all this stuff. And I hope the CCP cracks, and
Yes,
I
finger
hope for the
crossed.
best. Yeah,
Yeah, it will be a very very beneficial thing for everybody in this world. So let's work toward it.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's always lovely talking to you, and I hope to see you back very soon. Thank you.
Thank
Namaskar.
you. Bye.